Good evening and welcome to this week's edition of the Limelight. My name is Prince Apollo, and this week police confirmed a new wave of criminality where thugs will lay people, actually unsuspecting victims, either on the streets of Kampala or near their homes, and they beat them up seriously before they steal all their valuables, leaving them either dead or unconscious. We have witnessed several videos of people being ambushed. As early as 8 p.m., these criminal gangs are roaming the streets of Kampala and they continue to terrorize the residents. It has been confirmed that these criminal gangs have even reached the extent of splitting the city into operating or operation zones, with several leaders of the gang leaders taking control of these territories. This becomes a matter of concern, but police insists that they are in charge. But for us, we look back to what the experts are saying, and that is why we are speaking with Mr. Freddy David Egesa. Freddy Egesa is a security analyst. He's also a private investigator majoring in homicides. Let me connect with Freddy. Freddy, looking at the recent incidents and looking at the expertise these thugs are employing in kicking, either beating their victims, leaving them to die, you may think or you may agree that this must be a matter of concern. Well, I want to hear from you and also your expert opinion on what could have gone wrong, and could this be a sign of a lapse in security or not? Let me hear from you, Freddy.
The police has to know how to surgically pick words. If they should say that they are doing all their best, instead of saying that they are on top of the game. Because if attacks are as prevalent as we see now, that means that, they should come up and say they are doing their level best to see that they deal with this type of trouble. And because all Ugandans now have every reason to be very, very worried about the way they are being attacked. You know, it has come to an extent that the thugs can even attack you during the day, and because they move in big numbers, it is very unlikely that any other person will intervene to save you or to protect you. And besides, when you look at what they do, they attack the most. They attack the areas like the neck, the head, the heart. So they are here to destroy. Yeah, so the police has to come up and say, talk about trying their level best, and even advise the public on what they should be doing, instead of saying that they are on top of the game. When we see Ugandans now, more especially around universities and around areas of influence like Korolo, like Bugolobi, and even areas like Machindye, Najanankumi, you see that we are incidentally, bodies are being picked. People are burying their children, people are burying campuses, children who are maybe have 1 year to complete, or those who have even completed studies are being murdered by a team of people whose status, whose education, whose level is not known. what we call it's a climax of fraud, or a climax of corruption. In a setup whereby government officials start behaving in a very unruly way, society follows suit. In a country where our criminal justice is not reformative but punitive, people tend to have issues. In countries where a police bond costs money, in a country where people go to prison and instead of being rehabilitated, they are only radicalized because they find solace in other criminals, because the state has not been very prepared about doing good prisons. So you find that if we are picking a situation, to a certain extent, so many factors are to blame for what is happening now. I'll give you an example, possibly, before you you go to every station in Uganda now. Every station in Kampala, more especially, has impounded over 400 borders. Now, if I'm not pleading for the criminals, but I'm also trying to be analytical in a broader way. If we have like 5 main stations, and each station has like 400 motorcycles rotting in the sun and the rain, and these motorcycles could have been bought by those who maybe thought that they would come and make a shilling or two and feed their children or even have something to eat, and now they have been taken over. In the process, I think our own systems kind of create this kind of barbarism.
Speak about whether this could be connected to reduced levels in community policing. Could that be true, Freddie?
Partly yes, because also our police has not kind of demonstrated that friendliness, and does not seem to have methods of making a criminal feel remorseful. Like, if a man has committed and maybe has fought, now when you take him to the cells and beat him up, or when you demand that before he takes his police bond, you give him kitu kidogo, so he realizes that I'm a criminal among my fellow criminals. Now there is no incentive for young men, because now we have many. By the way, Uganda has one of the biggest ratio of young men and women. So who are not employed, many of them are in gambling. But at the same time, when the law comes in to straighten them, the law only the justice system has not been so straight in a way that it would possibly make life easier for them. So yes, the police is trying their level best, but the police is the force is so small, and maybe the methods also being used are not the right methods.
I am sure you watched one of the viral videos showing thugs attacking one of their victims along Benichwanuka Street. And when you analyze the attitude of the bystanders, the people who were present at the scene of crime, you agree that they have that I don't care attitude. They are not willing to help. They are not willing to intervene. What does that speak to the society we live in? In your experience, what do you think about that that response from the people at the scene of crime?
Okay. Thank you so much. What that depicts, it kind of depicts a society that has been terribly intimidated by crime, that they may, as much as they may want to intervene and maybe save a life, they are so overwhelmed, they are so intimidated that they suspect that any intervention may also have its own repulsions. So we are dealing with a very scared kind of society now. That may not easily come in, because, we used to have a thief or two. This time we are having big numbers, and when there is an attack, everybody whoever is around, you may think that it's part and parcel of the team, and so you have every reason to be scared and to keep off.
Freddie, the police, of course, and other security agencies have been conducting sting operations, especially in those dark spots. Recently, they conducted an operation along the northern bypass, and they arrested several suspects who could have been involved in such or similar criminality. What recommendations can you give to the security agencies in this particular incident or incidents or this wave of criminality we are witnessing, or we have witnessed in the last 1.5 weeks?
This matter is not even very complex. Only that we're using the wrong methods. You know, carrying out patrols and pushing policemen to move in single file and traverse villages may even not be a solution, because it also has its own shortcomings. Several boys on patrol harass young men. Many of them even go to the extent of robbing them. But why don't we improve civilian intelligence, wananchi intelligence, whereby we allow the people to, we excite the people to bring in information without a problem, and when the information is brought, it is handled in a very professional way, because the public knows these people, but now they have reached an extent of getting very, very scared, because even what they see some of the policemen do on patrols leaves a lot to be desired. So it's a high time we went back to wananchi intelligence. Museveni used it when he was in the bush, and it was very, very perfect, because force that was in the bush was that kind of human element of intelligence, the trust which was between the gorilla and the person and the village made him to beat the force of the regime. So criminals can be managed provided the police does the right system, the police uses the right methods, the police is closer and friendly. Now, if anybody is arrested, the police should now stay down to treat these people well. You know, like many people have been charged and whatever and mistreated. Now in the process, as someone is in prison without money, because we want it or not, the poor today do not have justice in Uganda. Now, let's just have one simple example of a young man on a border who is arrested and has nothing to give the police, and he ends up in Luzira. Now, he cannot easily get bail, so he has to be in Luzira. Now, while in Luzira, he's introduced to a friend who becomes nice to him and initiates him into hard crime achievements. You'll find that that person will be swayed with all the hate because nobody has rescued him from prison, with all the hate because really his people are suffering at home and starving. He will kind of pick that anger. That's why you see, when you see this boy, if you look at the videos, you can see that they are venting a lot of anger against the public, as if the public has robbed them, as if the public has killed their parents, as if, you know, it's like a situation of saying, we are coming back to you, and this is the message. To us, we are different from you.
All right, and from you as a security expert, what recommendations can you make to we ordinary citizens like me and all these other many Ugandans who are either now at work and we need also to go home, we'll be walking those streets, the same streets where this crime is happening? What can you tell us? How can we go about this particular situation?
I think for the time being, we have to be very careful about how we move with valuables, more especially very expensive phones, how we move with luggage, because luggage also will attract these are jackals. I call them jackals. They don't have a particular design, but once they are suspicious that you are carrying any valuables, if you are an old man and you are carrying these bags, they will suspect there is a phone, they will suspect maybe there is money, they will suspect maybe there are other good documents, then they will come for you. So at this material time, I think it is right, let's train ourselves to move with as little luggage as possible, so that as the police is doing their level best, as the army is doing their level best, we kind of do not attract attention of the jackals.
Finally, from me, Freddie, you said this is not so complicated. Do you, in your estimation, think that the security agencies will indeed go at the top of the game and they will contain this new wave of criminality or not in the near future?
They will, because like I said, this is not a very complex matter, because you can see these boys are even reckless. They have picked impunity because they think that they're not being followed. So you can see that they can easily be dealt with. But what is the system? Where do we put them? How are they going to be handled so that maybe there are some kind of reformative action? Two, that we make sure that others are not persuaded into the trade. You know, crime is becoming a trade in Uganda that possibly with time there may be a situation of maybe taxing them because it is becoming lucrative. So what we are talking about here is how do we persuade the young men to get busy, and how does the government build up a program, like instead of now we are now in parliament, people are fighting about who to censor who, but we have this force of young men who are redundant, who lack direction, who lack capital, who lack training, so that they have now descended on those who sent members of parliament there, and to them, so the members of parliament are quiet. It's like nothing is happening, and I'm telling you, if nothing is done, the public has every reason to worry. So lastly, I will tell Ugandans, you pray to your God, because the situation is not as good as we think.
Thank you so much, Freddie David Egesa, a security expert, analyst, and a private investigator. Thank you so much for that insightful discussion we've had. And I liked your recommendation that government must intervene with long-term solutions. Look for how you can provide jobs for these young men, and not only unleashing security operations that will only harvest as many as possible, who will be taken either to prison or to police cells and then released the next day to go back to the same streets where they have been with no permanent solution. Thank you so much, our viewers. Hope you've heard from the experts. Please be vigilant when you're moving. Don't move with many variables. And then make sure that at least if you can avoid those dark spots, then you'll be safe. My name is Prince Apollo. Let's catch up next Friday in another edition of The Limelight. God bless you. God bless Uganda.